Hello, my name is Greg Hausler. I like to call myself an abstract distractionist. I'm a multimedia painter who works with clothing, fabric, and found objects using a method that I've been developing since the 1980s. Texture, chaos, contrast, they're all critical components in creating my art. It took me a while to be able to embrace those things, to accept the things that are uniquely me and expand upon them. Allow me to tell you a little bit about who I am, where I live, and most importantly, about my art. I started painting as a means of releasing the angst I had as a socially awkward teenager. I was a nerd who focused on math and science throughout school. Although I painted and I loved the arts, I was solely focused on becoming an electrical engineer, not an artist. It wasn't until my third year in engineering college that I realized that I was pushing myself into something that wasn't for me. When I spoke to my father about finding another field to study, he reminded me about the paintings I used to do as a teenager. I took an art class, the very first art class I'd ever taken. 2 years later, I graduated with a bachelor's degree in fine arts. During that time as a student, I experimented with the idea of replacing canvas with clothing. It started because I was a broke college student and I couldn't afford to buy canvas. I thought, I have worn out clothing, it's fabric, why not? That desperate measure became the start of a creative exploration that is now at the very core of my art. After I graduated, I left my Kansas home for New York City, where my naive hopes of artistic fame and fortune were unceremoniously crushed. In hindsight, it was a good thing. I wasn't mature enough as an artist or frankly as an adult. So, I left New York to temporarily live with my parents in Greensboro, North Carolina. Decades later, Greensboro is still my home. Shortly after my arrival in the Carolinas, I began getting work as a commercial graphic artist. I was then able to move into an apartment, and it was there I met my first wife. We married, we had kids, we struggled with money. I became consumed with trying to make ends meet. Sadly, my art ceased to be a priority, even though, at my core, I'm an artist. It's who I am. After my first wife passed away and my children grew up and left home, I met my second wife, Diana. She clearly saw the artist I had repressed. She suggested that we build an artist studio in our backyard so that I could paint, which is exactly what we did. Now, in that studio, I feel recentered and refocused on my art with a purpose and a maturity and a drive that I was previously lacking. Together with my wife, Diana, who happens to be a quilting artist, we formed Wonky Studios. Greensboro, North Carolina is where I call home. North Carolina is a state that's towards the middle of the eastern coast of the United States. It's about 4 hours west of the Atlantic Ocean and is home to around 300,000 people. It's a very green city with lots of trees and more than 20 parks. I happen to live close to Battleground Park, a place where some of the American Revolutionary battles were fought. I love to take walks with my wife throughout the city. It inspires me. It allows me to work through my projects in my head while discussing them with my wife. My work is not purely abstract, nor is it purely subjective, but it is purely me. I finally accepted that I am a messy, spontaneous train wreck of a human. Chaos is the start of my every painting. I arrange the clothing, the fabric, the objects in a way that is seemingly random, much like looking into a washing machine, but it's still balanced. I prime the canvas for painting, not with gesso, but with splashes of wall paint. I incorporate found objects in the same manner that I choose fabric. They're elements, but never the whole storyline. Marcel Duchamp influenced me with his ready-mades. Jackson Pollock inspired me with his spontaneous drip technique. Claude Monet's water lilies, they still blow me away. The urgency of graffiti artists, the way jazz musicians alter their compositions yet still manage to keep the core of a melody, it just amazes me. I'm informed by all of this and more. I soak it up and put it through the blender that's my brain, and the result is my art. This is my journey. Thank you for letting me share it with you.